So originally, this video was going to be more about investment talks and what type of investments you should be putting your money into, specifically whether it would be ETFs or individual stocks, especially during the period of time that we're in. Now, obviously, I was going to start the video by using this prop old phone to check my Robinhood stocks and wonder how they're doing, but obviously I'm not going to do that because they're at the low at the moment. But there's so much more going on in the world right now beyond what the investments are. Of course, that's an important thing, and that is a result of everything that's happening. But again, there's so much more going on in the world right now. And one of the top questions, if not the top question that's being asked by individuals, regardless of what age they're at, is what do I do with my money? And that spans beyond investing. That's your savings accounts, that's your retirement, that's making money in general. So that's what I want to talk about today. And I want to keep this intro pretty short, but I want to talk about what to do and what not to do with your money. As someone that's a recently new investor, but someone that's worked in the financial industry and someone that's been working constantly to better prepare themselves for the future. And regardless of the situation we're in, we got to continue to do that, even though times now are a little bit tougher. So let's get into it. What's going on, guys? I'm Darren Jackson, and if you've been watching my previous videos, I definitely appreciate it. And you've noticed that I've been talking a lot about investment tips, especially during this period of time where stocks are an all-time low. And currently stocks are at a low that we haven't seen in the past 3 years. Just keep in mind where stocks are right now, we haven't seen since our current president took office back in 2016. So it's crazy times and definitely a good opportunity to contribute into the stock market. But as I've said, there's so much more going on beyond that. People are concerned about having an income, and people are concerned about how much they've saved. So I wanted to use this video on the small platform that I currently have to talk about my opinions on what I feel people should be and shouldn't be doing with their funds. And speaking of platform, if you guys haven't subscribed, if you're a new viewer, welcome, but please hit that subscribe button. It's somewhere down there, probably on like my bottom right. So make sure you click that subscribe button. But anyway, so much has been going on for the past week or so. The Federal Reserve dropped the interest rate to a range of between 0 and 0.25%, which is reducing the amount of money people are receiving in their savings account, but it's also providing a safety net for most businesses. But that really hasn't been helping with this social distancing trend that's been going on, which, by the way, I feel like is beneficial, but definitely pretty tough. A lot of businesses aren't receiving a lot of revenue because a lot of customers aren't spending their money. Small businesses are unfortunately shutting down. Large businesses are doing the same, or they're limiting their hours. And overall, the economy is just spiraling to a low, into a potential recession because of this epidemic that recently became a pandemic. And it's sad. And as I've said before, we beyond reached numbers that we've seen during the 2008 and 2009 Great Recession, which started with a mortgage crisis. I personally didn't pay attention to the stock market because I was a freshman or sophomore in high school, so I didn't really care too much, nor did I have a job to help me care. But there's a lot of people in the world that did, and there's a lot of people in the world that do. So after thinking about what I would potentially do and what I wouldn't do in the situation that I'm in and I could be in, I narrowed it down to a small list of things that you want to keep in mind as well. So let's get to it. So if you saw my previous video, I talked about the top 5 safest, in my opinion, dividend stocks that you can invest in during this period of time. But in order for you to make your own top 5 list, you have to do a lot of research and educate yourself with what stocks and what companies are doing during this period of time. And that leads me to one of the do's of investing. Do your research before you invest in companies. So that means looking at the company's background history, their dividend growth, and their overall growth. What they've done, what they're doing, and what they plan on doing, especially to mitigate the losses during this pandemic. And quick hint, if it's a company that you've heard of consistently in a positive light, then it's probably a company you want to invest in. Johnson & Johnson, Disney, Apple. Companies that are experiencing lows because of this pandemic, but normally have experienced highs and constantly growing. So that's companies that you definitely want to look for. And as important as investing is, especially during these times, and I can't stress that enough, what's more important is to make sure you have financial stability. And if that means that you're stressing to put money towards investments just to take advantage of the growth that we're going to be getting at the end of this recession, whenever that is, then you definitely don't want to do that. So do not invest if you can't afford to invest. It's more important to have that money in a liquidated savings account or available for food groceries, or anything else, rather than put it into a company, knowing that it's gonna reach a gain, but not knowing when. But just as important as not putting money in, if you currently have a stock portfolio, don't take money out. I mentioned before the Great Recession that we were in 2008 and 2009. It was a long period of stocks declining and companies going out of business, but take a look at how it ended. It ended on a positive light, and your stock portfolio will do the same. So if you have funds that are in your stock portfolio currently, and even if you're not investing, just keep the money in there. I promise you, especially if you don't need it, you won't regret it. And when you look back, those funds will be there. Those funds will be back to where they were, hopefully before this thing even started, and hopefully a lot higher since. But make sure you put a healthy amount of money in your investments if you can, but otherwise keep your money elsewhere. Keeping your money elsewhere, like your savings account, is where I want to go to next. Since the Federal Reserve dropped their interest rates, that's affected a lot of people's savings account. Whether you have a high yield savings account or a money market savings, your bank would typically offer you a certain amount of dividends every month to equal up to a certain APY. They may not be offering you as much, or if not at all. But regardless, this is the time to put money into a savings account. It's very important to have liquidated funds to access in case of emergency, because you guys may not know, but we may be in that position where you may need it in case of an emergency. And it's widely known to try to keep between 2 to 3 months worth of funds into your savings account, so that can equate to rent, utilities, food, water, gas, if you have to drive to work and back, etc., etc. So you want to make sure you keep those funds in there just in case of some untimely emergency where you need to access that money. So if you're currently employed, then the first 2 steps are going to be a little bit easier to maintain. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have lost their jobs due to companies not being able to sustain the amount of revenue that they normally are currently sustaining before this pandemic even started. The unemployment rate has jumped up so high during the scare and the social distancing that we're all trying to preach, and it's crazy. So if you're unemployed, the first thing that you need to do before anything else, and hopefully you've done it already, is to file for unemployment. No matter where you live at, every state in this nation has some type of unemployment benefit, and I'll make sure that I put some links in the description below to hopefully help start you on your research on who to contact to hopefully get you started on getting your unemployment checks. And the one thing you also want to keep in mind is to be patient. There's a lot of other people in your position, unfortunately, and there are people on the other line that are doing their best to help get each and every one of you in a position to be temporarily financially taken care of until this whole thing comes into an end and you're hopefully able to gain your old job or a new form of income at some point in the near future. But you have to be patient. They're there to help, but there's a lot of people that they're helping. But make sure that you do file for unemployment as soon as you possibly can. And if you are employed still, then good for you. Hopefully you've been contributing into a 401k, which is ridiculously important. But one of the biggest questions I've been asked in regards to a 401k is, should I take my money out right now? No, don't do it. And I had to think about that because there's a lot of people that are approaching retirement right now, and they may be thinking, well, that's easier said than done. I want to take my money out now so I can retire. I would still say no, and this is why. Retirement is a plan. It's called a retirement plan, and plans don't always go as planned. Things unexpectedly happen. Now, it's up to you if you want to pull money out, but the 401ks are an index fund, if I'm correct. And they work just the same as any other index fund, like your S&P 500, where they'll experience a lot of lows during recessions and ridiculous gains at the end of it. Like, for example, if you invested in the S&P 500 during the 2008 financial crisis, you more than likely lost about 150% of the worth of your S&P 500 stocks. But if you kept it throughout that, and even up to this point during this pandemic that we're currently going through, you've gained almost 300% of what it was worth before that 2008 recession started. So at the end of the day, the funds that you lost in your 401k will go back. And I know if I was approaching retirement, I'd rather work for an extra year, or at least for the period of time it took for the economy to restore back to where they were before this even started. Again, I know that's easier said than done, but that's honestly what I would do. Now, one thing you can do in regards to 401k is to check the percentage that you're contributing to your 401k. Now, normally companies will match your 401k off a certain percentage, whether it's 4 to 6% of what you're contributing from your paychecks. But every year, that percentage that you're contributing automatically goes up 1%, which is great. But that match that your company gives to you doesn't change. So you may be contributing 8% and the match level is 4%. So one thing you can do is temporarily lower that to that same level of match. So that way you're still investing towards your 401k and towards your retirement plan, but you're also saving a little money for yourself so you can use on important things such as food, water, gas, toilet paper. Still missing. What is going on? Like, I'm lucky I actually found some toilet paper. Hopefully it feels good, but at this point I don't even care because people have lost their minds. It's crazy. But seriously guys, definitely think about that when it comes to your 401k. But what spans beyond money and how much that you have, and what I feel like is the most important thing that you can do during these tough times, is to just stay positive. I know that is so tough now. I understand that could be easier said than done, but you have to try. If you know there is an ounce of positivity in you that's just wanting to get out, then you're on the right track. But you have to be positive, whether you're social distancing alone or you're with a group of people, you're in a financial struggle. Just know that this recession, for one, always ends in a positive. There's always major gains to come. It's just a matter of when they show up. And just know that all the positivity that you're showing right now, it will shine light at the end of the day. So we have to stick together and we have to remain positive and just make sure that we're all financially and mentally and emotionally on the right track. So thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure you guys tune in next Thursday. And again, if you haven't pressed that subscribe button yet, please press that subscribe button. I'm not trying to beg. I'm not gonna beg. Nope. In the meantime, guys, until next Thursday, take care.